Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk, Managing E-commerce Site Content. My name is Nina, and I'll be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this web conference through Teams live events, and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. Today's web conference is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. By participating in this session using Microsoft Teams, your name, email address, phone number, and/or title may be viewable by other session participants. If you do not consent to being a part of a recorded session, please disconnect at this time. The recording will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within 5 business days. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions throughout the event. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Now let's get started. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Nick Holman, Senior Program Manager. Nick, over to you.
Thank you, Nina. Yeah, like Nina said, today we're going to be walking through some techniques and some concepts around managing your e-commerce site content within Dynamics 365 Commerce. So let's take a look at our agenda today. We're going to first kind of just take a look at the big picture of where this site content is authored within Commerce. Then we're going to kind of take a look at what we call the page model and do a little overview refresher for folks who are either new to that or need a refresher. Kind of talk through what are the different entities that come together in our content management system to actually create new web pages and manage those efficiently across an enterprise website. And then we're going to try to do a lot of hands-on demo to show how we create and manage what we call fragments, and also how we create and manage templates within the tool set, how to use some other things like preset layouts, and how to create pages, and how to also use something called publish groups to manage big site pushes when you need to publish a lot of content at once, or do big refreshes or launch a site even. So we're going to go through all of that. And let's first kind of just talk about where are we going to be talking about this. So this is kind of a diagram that shows a little more holistic view of the Dynamics 365 Commerce all-up feature set. You know, your main merchandising tasks when you're dealing with products and categories and shipping and setting up your different stores, and where you'll originally set up your online channels, is going to be here in back office, or HQ. And this is where all of your those merchandising tasks happen. And the idea is that you want to do that in one place, and it can propagate to all of your channels. So whether that be to assort stuff to call center, or your brick and mortar stuff, so your cloud POS and all of your actual physical stores, to assort products and categories and various bits there. But then you're also going to set up your e-commerce channel there. And that's where we kind of get to the content piece, where you're going to be setting up your website, and then the ongoing tasks for your site authors that are going to keep that web content fresh, and add marketing materials and be able to manage all of that content efficiently going forward through months and years ahead. And that's going to be the focus of this session. So we're going to really focus just on managing the content and marketing content and structures of web pages for that e-commerce channel. So with that said, let's kind of just, I'm going to flip back and forth a little bit between a tool that we call Site Builder, which is really this authoring app shown in the purple box over here. And what Site Builder looks like is it's a web app that is meant to manage and build your web pages, and really is built for ongoing management of that site content. So this is the home screen of the Site Builder app. This is what you'll see when you first come here. It gives you some quick launching points and some links to some additional learning if you need to learn more about some deeper, more advanced features. On the left here is a navigation, and you'll see some different entity types, pages, products you'll probably be familiar with, and we'll come back to that. I've already mentioned fragments. We have a media library that is where all of your digital binaries are going to live. So your images, your videos, You can host Word docs or PDFs or manuals here, product spec sheets, and then you can manage URLs and templates. We're going to be going into layouts, and then experiments and design are going to be covered in other tech talks coming up. And then you have something that's, I think, already covered in another tech talk last week for site settings. And then you have a couple other controls up here. I'm just kind of familiarizing you with this. Up here in the upper right is where you can kind of set the context of the site builder tool. You can select different channels. So if you had multiple channels, say you were using channels for different markets, you could have a channel for your Canada market, your US market, your India market, your EMEA, however you set that up in back office. And if you make those online channels, those you can set up to show up here and pivot the tool set to be able to edit those different content. And then within those, you'll have your locale selectors. So if you're doing something for the Canadian channel market, you might have FRCA and ENCA as the two locales for that channel. And you can manage content holistically across the tool by setting that context. So it's kind of just a quick introduction to this site builder tool set. And so let's kind of take a look at what goes into creating a page. Now we're going into the page editor here for this Fabricam demo site's homepage. And you'll see what we have here is kind of a WYSIWYG editor that we call the visual page builder here in the center. And this is interactive. I can click on it and navigate through it. If I need to edit it, I can click edit. And over here on the left, we're seeing kind of a structure of what's in there. So you'll see something called a carousel. And I just want to familiarize you with this before we go back into the PowerPoint to just give you a couple things to think about. And you'll see that these structures and things are kind of authorable blocks of stuff that you can build. So without further ado, let's go back to the presentation and talk about what goes into creating that rendered web page. We have several different entity types here that you'll notice a few terms. So let's go through these one by one and kind of just understand what are the different pieces that that go into managing this page and site content. So the place we'll start first is the term modules. You'll notice this referenced in all these different entity types. And what modules are, we've kind of picked the term from the JavaScript library React, and the way they sort of determine what a module is in that language is that it's a logical building block for your site. So you can think of that as some unit of reusable structure for a web page. And so some of these modules can organize and render content. So that would be like rendering a big image here, like on this page, and text, saying some marketing text, even button text and links. Something that might be localized as well. So you might have a slightly different image for different channels or markets, and you would obviously have different languages for the text. And then some other modules are really more for organizing and rendering other child modules. So the example here is a carousel, and I'll go back to Site Builder to kind of talk about that. So you'll see in the structure here, we have a module. This is a module here on the left that's called a carousel, and it actually doesn't have any text or stuff in it. It's a container to hold other child modules. So within this carousel, I have 3 content blocks. So if I scroll through these slides, these are the different content block modules, and I could add more. So I could have 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 modules within this carousel, and the carousel has its own properties of how the structure from the carousel is maybe these flippers, and does it change slides automatically, and it's really just a container for other child modules within it. So going back to the presentation, that's what container modules are. So that's kind of the second type, and then the third type is that some modules are just there to inject really not visible metadata and scripts. So we actually use modules as well to insert external scripts or even inline scripts for doing metadata or for inserting something like Google Analytics into your pages. And so you can create or use existing modules to also do things that aren't necessarily visible on the page, but are in the HTML or JavaScript of the page that is really there just for metadata or for analytics tracking. So these modules, they can be deployed and configured in various stages of the site authoring workflow. So they're used obviously in templates and layouts and pages and fragments. So you'll see sort of the concept of modules really through the whole page model. And we ship a pretty good selection of modules right out of the box with Commerce. It's considered the native module library. And those are meant to give you a starting point that hopefully covers many bases for a typical e-commerce site. Now we have an SDK for these modules, and all of those were created with that SDK by our team, but we give you that SDK as well. So then you can extend those modules and add functionality to them while still getting updates from Microsoft, or you can even copy them and start fresh and really branch off completely on your own if you have modules that are not included in that library that you need for your business, or you can literally just build one from the ground up using that SDK. And all of that's covered in other tech talks. So just know that the set of modules that comes with Commerce is just a starting point, and hopefully we cover a lot of the bases, and it will continue to grow and evolve as Microsoft keeps adding functionality there. But we give you the tools to build any functionality you need into your website, and also make them authorable for your authors. So they fit into an ecosystem nicely, and you're not limited by what we ship with Commerce. So moving on to this next entity type here, a template. What is a template? So a template is really a set of options for your authors. It streamlines the authoring workflow. It can also help keep a site on brand. So instead of just letting content authors just always do whatever they want, building a page from anything in the system and making them sift through 100 different modules each time with different defaults, you can set up templates to streamline that workflow and also help keep a particular website on brand so that you don't have 50 different layouts of pages that would confuse a lot of your users. You want to have some level of consistency across these pages, and also some level of efficiency for the authors creating pages on an ongoing basis. So templates can set or lock the module options for a particular type of page. They also don't directly contain any localized content. That's something important to understand here. That happens a little farther down the page model here that we'll get to. And like I said, well-structured templates can really simplify the downstream page authoring tasks for your ongoing content authors and marketing personas that just need to quickly create new content and don't need to deal with the complexity of all the different available options that the system supports. So kind of moving on from that, well, what next question might be, well, what's a layout? So a layout is the explicit choice from those set of options. So the template lays out, hey, you can, for this section of a page that you're building from this template, you have these, 3, 4, 5, 10 options of modules that make sense to go in that section of the page. The layout then says, all right, from those 10 options, I want to choose a content block hero to go here at the top. That's my choice from those options. And I do that for the whole page, and it's the explicit choice for a whole layout of the page. And some of the other thing that you can do here is you can set some other defaults at this level. So you might be able to lock certain settings for a module. So if you had a left aligned image with a right aligned text, you could lock that at the layout level, and anything that's using that layout then would get those module settings, and you could centrally update them at the layout level. This, what you can then do, that you can swap layouts with other between pages that share the same template. So if I had 10 different layouts that all use the same template, any page that's using those layouts could then switch between other layouts within that same template family. So this is an easy way to sort of centrally rearrange the arrangement of modules, or even set different locked properties for those in a centralized fashion. And you can imagine on a big enterprise site that might have hundreds of pages, instead of going and moving some product list that you had at the middle of the page and you wanted to move it to the top of the page, and that was across a whole bunch of pages, you could do that centrally at the layout level and not have to go edit 100 different pages. It would be done in one place on that layout, and the updates would immediately happen for any page that was using that particular layout. Another thing to call out here is that layouts also do not directly contain the localized content. They're really the selection of the module, but not the content. The other thing to sort of understand here is that when you use layouts well, they can really increase page efficiency, because you can, well, we do allow you to create pages directly from a template. When you do that, you're still choosing which, all the different module options that might be available. So there's going to be some extra steps there for a page author to choose between the 10 or 20 different modules that are available, which may be the right thing for certain scenarios. But other times you may just have a layout that you already know exactly which modules you want to use. And so if you use a preset layout, you're going to have all those modules already ready for you as soon as you create that page from it, and you will not need to choose any other modules. You're just entering content at that point. So what else do we have in this? We have the page instance. So the page instance is where the localized content lives for those modules, and this is where the meat and potatoes of daily content authoring, when you're managing your e-commerce site content, is generally going to be updating content, and that happens here at this page instance level. And that page can be either tied to a preset layout or to a custom layout. So a custom layout being a layout that is just for that one page, and you are not sharing it among other pages. So layouts have a scope of being shared by many pages, or you can have a custom layout that's just for that one page. And the reason we kind of do this structure is it keeps the content and the page arrangement, otherwise known as the layout, separate, which allows a lot of scenarios where you can make centralized updates to the page layout without having to reauthor any content or going to hundreds of individual pages. It also, at times, can separate the content editor roles, which might be just concerned with content, from design roles. So some companies, that role may be the same person, but other companies it may not. And so you have some separation of concerns there, where you can have the layout and the design slightly separate from just content editing. So kind of deep diving a little bit into how a layout and a page instance works. So I mentioned before that a layout can be shared across many pages, or it can be just in one page. So this kind of just shows that a layout object can be standalone and referenced by many pages here on the right, or it can actually just be embedded in a single page. Now these purple layout objects, they look identical from a data model standpoint. It's just where they live. This one lives inside of a page document, and this one lives outside of a page document and is just referenced by other pages. So that, you have these two different scopes that a layout can live. And then the nice thing is you can switch between the two. So if you started out a page in a shared layout, you can switch it to an embedded one, which essentially makes a copy of this into the page. And then you can edit and move modules around as you need for just that one page, and vice versa. If you wanted to, then you had a layout that you liked for this page, and now you want to share it and make it available for creating new pages or switching other pages to, you can then move it out and reference it elsewhere. And we call those preset or sometimes fixed layouts, and the custom ones that are embedded are considered custom or flexible layouts. You've also probably noticed this term fragment. Fragments are, if you can just think of them as fully configured modules, so that have content. A module is really just a structure, but it doesn't have the localized content yet. That's something that's authored by a user or content author. But a fragment is a fully configured one, so it has the localized data and can be localized in for many channels and many locales, and kind of otherwise acts like a little mini page. It has a full life cycle. It can be independently created, updated, referenced, and deleted within the system. And you can share them across many pages. So they are a way to reuse and centrally update content that might appear on multiple pages that you would want to centrally update. And they eliminate a lot of redundant content authoring by centralizing these configurations that are reused or need to be on many pages. And they also provide a very efficient update. So the way fragments work is they can actually live just about anywhere in the page model. So we kind of have an example here of a seasonal promo hero fragment. I can put that one fragment into different templates. I can put it into multiple templates. I can put it into other fragments even. So fragments can live within other fragments because, as we know, modules can be containers. So if we have a container module, you can put a fragment into a container module. You can put fragments into layouts. So you can kind of, this is the one way to put actual localized content into a template or into a layout currently. So probably the easiest example of this would be a site header. And if we go back to Site Builder, you'll notice here this top piece, the header that has our navigation stuff, is a fragment. So this is actually something that's shared across the whole site. And I can use this in every template on my system if I want, or in every page across the site. And you'll notice if I click the link for that fragment, I can bring that into the fragment editor, and I can just edit just that top fragment. And the reason we take you into an editor to do this is that this may be being used on every single page in my site. And so at this point, I'm in the fragment editor, and I can now edit this fragment. And as soon as I publish it, I could have 1,000 pages on my site, and they're all going to get that update from that single fragment. So in a nutshell, fragments can be used really anywhere in the page model. And then when you edit them and publish them, anywhere that it's used across your site will get that update immediately. So all of these pieces kind of all come together at render time to create the rendered web page that your customers are going to see. And these are compiled into HTML and JavaScript by our render service from these page model JSON objects. So all the previous entities that I talked about, the template layout, page instance, and fragments, are handled behind the scenes. They are just JSON objects in our content management system. And at render time, they are compiled into HTML and JavaScript. And the modules that we ship as part of the native module library from Microsoft, we are already responsive for different viewports. So they will resize elegantly for mobile, tablet, PC viewports. And we've also done extensive accessibility testing on all those modules. So as much as possible, wherever it can be automated or just kind of by design made accessible. We've already done that for you and provided some of the patterns and best practices for that. Now, there's some content stuff that you'll still have to do, obviously, for ARIA labels and other pieces like that, and just the way that you organize them to be accessible. But using our native module library, you're going to have a head start on having an accessible website. And so this kind of render engine, really helps you get a predictable end user experience that is going to help your customers find and buy your products across different locales and channels and different search engines, disabilities, and also different devices. So where does this page model kind of live in a little bit bigger ecosystem? Where do they come from, and how do you create new modules? Or if you don't have the authoring pieces that you need, how would you go about adding those or creating new modules for your site? So I'm going to flip back one time here and just kind of point out that this property panel over here, this is a navigation menu module, but all these properties here that you can edit and author, and that might be localizable and add content or have settings for those modules, are determined by the module itself. And you can change any module using the SDK or create your own to build really any authoring experience you need. You could make this super simple if you want to have your developer kind of be able to control everything. They could just leave the content here. Or if you want to give your authors a lot more options to basically build and do anything with those modules, you could add all kinds of authorizable properties to your modules. But just know that this set of stuff is not baked into anything in the tool. These are coming from whatever module you are authoring. And the way that kind of works is that every single module, including the ones that we ship natively, started their life using our web SDK. So the web SDK is where you define these module types and how they can be authored and what can be authored within them. And then those, once they've been developed using kind of common React JavaScript skills, they get deployed through LCS and become part of what we call our definitions API. And this is what essentially gives the set of module choices to Site Builder. So Site Builder is looking to that API to say, for this particular environment, your environment, if you've added some customizations or just used the off-the-shelf stuff, it's getting that list of modules and those definitions for those modules from that API. And that they're also going to get the available themes from that API as well. So we'll go into that in another tech talk, kind of how to style your site. But it all starts kind of with that definitions API. And once the Site Builder tool has those definitions, then it knows which, what module definitions to write into our content management system. So this is where your authors are creating pages, and before that, when you're setting up your templates and your layouts and your fragments, those are all coming from those module definitions that Site Builder is then writing to the CMS. Now our render engine, when the request comes in, they are getting the content documents, all those entities from the CMS. They're also reading the same module definitions from that definitions API, and they're getting all of the information from the commerce runtime or back office for your products, categories, pricing, shipping, stores, etc. All of that's coming in from those omni-channel CRT endpoints, and the render engine, when the request comes in, is then compiling all of that into your rendered page. So I think with that, we've kind of given, I think, a good conceptual overview of the main page model documents that you're going to need to create and manage your site. So let's go ahead and kind of take a look at how some of these concepts work within Site Builder. And I want to give you, we're going to jump into a few I wouldn't say advanced, but let's kind of go through a typical workflow for just updating content first, and then we'll go into really some creation pieces as well. So The first thing I want to kind of point out here is a feature that we launched last year. It's called publish groups. Publish groups are a way to stage and update content as a set. So you can think of this as a way to for something like a big holiday event for any of your channels, or for a site launch, or for just monthly updates, you might have 10, 20, or 100 or 1,000 changes that all need to go at the same time. And instead of trying to hit publish on 100 things at a time, you want to group those together, test those changes all together, and make sure that they all publish together at the same time. So publish groups is kind of a way to do that. So as I'm going through this, I'm going to do this in the context originally of a publish group. And since I'm in the US and I know many of you aren't, but we have a holiday coming up that we celebrate in February for Valentine's Day, that a lot of companies here will do a marketing event around. And so let's go ahead and make a publish group for Valentine's Day. So I'm going to hit new and name a new publish group here called Valentine's Day. And now what I can do to this is I can add existing stuff on my site to this publish group, and then I can also add new stuff within it. So how would I do that? So right now I'm in the context of my main live site. You'll see this selector here. And the top's always going to be live site. This is sort of documents that are published to your main site, or that if you're not using publish groups, you can just do one-off changes directly against those entities here in the live site. So normally speaking, you'll be living here in this live site context. And you'll notice that my pages, I've got lots of pages in here. Say I want to do some updates to my homepage for that Valentine's Day holiday. So I can select that from my live site, and I'm going to copy it to my publish group. So I hit copy to publish group here at the top after selecting that, and I just select which publish group I want to add it to. And now I've basically added that the home page into that publish group. And let's say I also want to change my header fragment that we looked at earlier, and maybe change the banner at the top of that. So I'm going to select the header fragment here, and also copy that to my Valentine's Day publish group. And I could do this for anything in here. So if I have some URLs that I might want to change, or some new images or videos that I want to use for that Valentine's Day content push, I can add all these different types into that publish group. Once I've kind of added the existing content, now I want to go and start creating new content and making changes. What I can do is basically set the context of the whole tool to that Valentine's Day content push. So I'm going to go to this selector and select Valentine's Day. And now you'll notice that the tool has basically switched to just the context of the changes and the entities that I care about for Valentine's Day. And you'll see that represented over here. The page that I add, I have one page for this Valentine's Day push. I have one fragment for this content push. And I can create new content in here as well. So I might, in fragments, maybe I want to make a marketing fragment for Valentine's Day. So let's see how, let's kind of get into creating a brand new fragment from scratch. So I'll hit new. And this is the list of all the modules I mentioned that are in this particular environment. If I had any custom ones, they'd be here as well, and all the native ones. So I'm going to look for what we call a container module. It's really just a generic kind of grouping that I can add other modules to. So like we said before, you can nest modules within others. Container's a good one to start with, because you can add any module within it. It's just a starting point. So we'll give this a name, Valentine's Marketing, and we'll name that fragment that, and then we're gonna go ahead and just author that content real quick. So this takes us into the fragment editor, and we kind of just have a blank canvas here that we can do. And this is our container that we can add other modules to. So in this visual page builder here, I can just click the plus button and I can add other modules. So let's go ahead and add what we call a content block first. So content blocks, just kind of your basic marketing module that's going to give you some text and image, maybe some action link buttons. So I'll say very great marketing text here, but we can come back and fix that at a future date. We'll get some placeholder stuff here, and we'll say, get gifts. And I can edit content here on the right panel as well. So you'll notice that the title is showing up here, but if I want to edit that here, I can do that inline as well. And let's also just go ahead and add an image. So we'll pick, I'll try to find something that looks like a gift here. So I can look for things that are just scoped within the publish group. I can also grab things from my published live site. So if I switch this filter up here, now I'm looking through everything within my published live site. And so I'll pick a picture of some GIFs, and we're getting close here, although I don't really want it to be like a hero thing. So I have a module layout here. I'm going to change this to a feature layout. So that just changes the layout here, and whatever you want to do within your theme or your module definition, these can all be updated. So if you have other layouts or different HTML structures that you want for your modules, that can all be done with the SDK, or if we've already built enough functionality into the native module library, you'll just get it out of the box. So let's also maybe add an action link here. So we can edit that, and let's maybe say shop now. And we can choose what we want that link to go to. So maybe I want to, I could have a custom list from back office, but maybe for right now, I'll just choose jewelry. That seems like a pretty common category of gifts for Valentine's Day. So now that's going to link to my jewelry category. And let's add one more. Let's actually, in that jewelry vein, let's add some product placement. So let's see, product collection. I can add a product collection module here, and I can choose, let's just go ahead and choose the same jewelry category. And these categories are coming from back office that have been assorted to my online channel. They'll just automatically show up here once those categories and products have been assorted to your online channel. So we'll add that. So now we've kind of starting to get a list of jewelry. And let's go ahead and save that. So now we're kind of building out a list of content that we want to have for Valentine's Day, and it's all contained within this single marketing fragment here. And once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to go ahead and hit finish editing. And now that's basically ready to go within that publish group. Let's go ahead and take a look at pages and maybe create a new page as well. So we'll create a Valentine's Day landing page, and I'm going to choose this marketing template here, and we'll call this. And I can give it a URL. I just want to pause here for a second. I can give it a URL here right off the bat while I'm creating the page. The URLs in our system are not tightly coupled to pages. So you can take any URL and point it at a different page in the future. They're not a one-to-one relationship in our system. So you could just leave this blank and not create a URL and come back later when you've decided what you want your vanity URL to be for this landing page, or you can just create one on the fly. So if I create one now, it'll create that for me just in one step. So now we're being taken into the page editor with that template that I just selected. And you'll see I kind of get a decent starting point here for this page. All of this stuff I want you to understand is coming from the template that I chose. So this background image, the default text here, is set up in the template and just made it easy for me as a content author. I can just use that, and now I'm I'm editing content right off the bat. Here I can type right in line. I can double click on this image and pick pick a new image that I want and do that. But before I choose a new image, let's just kind of show where that image is coming from and where this stuff, where these defaults for this kind of quick page editing experience are really set up. So this is something hopefully you're not doing too often. You're doing this when you're setting up the structure of your site to make it easy for your content editors when they're creating new pages. So where you can always see which template is, if you click on the top node up here, you're going to get a link to that template. And let's go ahead and click on that and see what does this template look like. You'll see it's not, it's giving the options. So it's not really going to give you a full-fledged page view because there might be 200 different options in here, and you don't want to render 200 different modules in here. So let's take a look at the structure here. First of all, let's just take a look here in the body, and I'm going to come back to some of this stuff of what these other pieces are. But right here in the main slot, we have two containers called the above the fold section. You can always see what type it is over here. If you click on it, it's the container module. And then we have some constraints on it of how many can be there. So I'm saying there's a min occurrences of 1. That means that when I created this page, this above the fold section, which is a container, was required. So it just put it there for me. So this is a way that you can kind of pre-build and give us nice starting point for your content authors when they create a new page from it. So if I say that that's min occurrences is 1, it's gonna make one for me when I create that page. Now I can also, set some defaults here. So if I go into this content block, this is where that lorem ipsum text came from. If I wanted to change the default text and I had some marketing content that I just wanted to have in there as a starting point, I can put that here. The title, I can change that to heading or change it to whatever I want as my default here. The image that is coming, so this little kind of default gray image here, if I have something for my brand or company that I want to have as the default image for that, I can set the default here. So all these defaults for that for all these modules can be set here. And I want to point out that there's some other features over here. These locked icons means that I can actually lock some of this content at the template level. So if I wanted this image to not be replaceable and it just always be that same image, I can lock that here in the template, which would then mean that when I go here to change this, it's not going to let me do that. It's going to tell me that that image is locked. So that's a way you can kind of control things that you want to keep on brand or leave things open for editors to do. It just helps the authoring process by kind of keeping things on brand and giving you the options. So if we wanted to add a new option here in the below the fold section, we can go in here and add module and say I want to add an accordion module as an option here. I can just add that to the template, hit finish editing. I'll say added. This is going to pop up whenever you hit finish editing. It's a good way to keep comments and an audit trail of what changed between different things in kind of human readable language. So we'll say added accordion to below the fold. So, and then, so I can publish that. It's not really doing anything other than just keeping that the template in a published state. But if I come back here and I want to first, before I even hit refresh, let's do add module, and you'll see that because I haven't refreshed this page, we don't see the accordion option yet. So let's go ahead and refresh this. And if someone were to come back or create a new page with this and come to that below the fold section and try to add a module now, now they have the accordion option. So I hope people saw that the list of options that I have when I'm editing this page is now filtered to the ones that that have been set up for that particular template. This is just a good way to keep, you don't want to see cart modules or account modules or just modules that have no relevance to whatever the activity is of your content authors. You want to kind of give them the ones that they need, or the ones that make sense for being on brand for that particular page type. So anyway, we can let's just imagine that we'd done that, and maybe we want to add our our new Valentine's Day fragment. So I could add that fragment to this below the fold section, and this is that one that we just created. And just go ahead and add that in. We'll go ahead and hit save. I hit save too quick there. Oh, there it is. Okay, so that's that Valentine's Day fragment, and I could add that to my home page. I could add that to a bunch of other pages, but edit it centrally. And so this is just kind of giving me a quick way to see that stuff. And maybe I want to change the alignment of this to kind of offset that. And we'll change these images real quick just so this page looks halfway decent. Okay, we'll do that. And let's go ahead and change this image here. So now we've kind of quickly just built out a nice page here with some reusable content, some defaults from our template. And let's say that we're happy, we hit finish editing, and initial check-in. We've made those changes. Now in our Valentine's Day publish group, we've got all our content. We've got our 2 pages, the home page, we've made changes to that. The fragments, let's just say that we updated the banner for that. And we've got everything staged here. Now I want that publish group to all publish together at the same time. And I also want to make sure that it's going to work. So I can select this, and I can hit this validate button. And what it's going to do is just make sure that everything in there's checked in, that all the documents are valid before we publish. So that was just a quick validation check to say, yeah, it's going to be good. And then I can, edit my schedule here, and this is going to let me choose when I want it to publish. So let's say Valentine's Day is in middle of February. So I'm going to go to, have this publish on February 1st, and 9 a.m. sounds good. And I will basically say, I'm going to schedule that. So I just basically have now locked that publish group to publish all of those 2 pages and those 2 fragments and a URL and anything else that that I've added to that particular content set is now ready to publish at 9 a.m. Pacific time on February 1st. I can also just push it live by hitting publish as well. Or duplicate it if I want to have a set of content that I can move back to at a later date. So duplicating and creating publish groups is really a way to set a bunch of changes to all go at the same time. So let's go ahead and go back to say I publish this and I want to go back to my live site now. In fact, let's just go ahead and do that. I can also unschedule this. So I'll unschedule it and just publish it. Okay, so we're kind of doing this in real time right now, and now the state of my publish group is published, and all of those, if I go into my live site, I can now go and I'm going to see that my Valentine's Day page that before did not even exist in live site has now been published, and my homepage has been published, and the fragment that I created, my Valentine's Day marketing fragment, is now published to my live site. So I'm hoping that kind of gave people an idea of how ongoing site content management really works for a lot of our customers. Let's go, now that we've seen that, let's kind of go a little bit more in depth on what does creating a new template really look like from scratch. So if I was just going to create a new template, not editing ones, and start from scratch and see how that, see all the nitty gritty details from the beginning, what does that look like? So I'll just call this demo. And we're going to get basically a bare bones structure here. And you'll see HTML head, body begin, body end. For anyone who's familiar with HTML, you're probably familiar with these terms, but these are kind of the main structure of a general HTML web page. So what do we put in the HTML head? Well, HTML head is a lot of times where your SEO and some scripts might go. So let's go ahead and try to add a module here. And it's also telling me that I have to have something here. So this little red thing is just giving me a warning that for this to be a valid template, you're going to need to add something to this particular slot. And I'm sorry I haven't explained what a slot is, but a slot is you can think of it like a container that's already defined by the module. So a particular module might have a slot for various different purposes. So maybe a buy box has 5 different slots: a slot for the media gallery, a slot for the product description, a slot for kind of the shipping modules, and maybe those slots are basically those slots are areas where you can add other child modules, and it's defined in the module, not necessarily in the page itself. So this core root module is actually every single page starts with a basic module that's a root module, and that's what this is giving you. So when we add a module, you'll see the options I have for this slot are all going to be kind of those metadata or script options. So I can add some sort of, we have a few sort of pre-built ones that would apply to like a category page that would be metadata that you would probably want as a starting point for a category page. You can also, there's some pre-built ones for like a list page. There's just kind of a generic page summary. There's ones for a product page that would have product SEO data already pre-built for you. But what we kind of want here is just something basic. So a page summary is what I'm going to choose. You could also add more modules. So if you had an inline script or an external script to add Google Analytics or some other script that you want, this is where you'd also add that type of metadata module. So I'm going to add that just to cover this. Now these titles can be overridden at each individual page, but I can put a default here. So maybe since we're on the Fabricam, I'll set the default to Fabricam, and I could set a default description, some default keywords, etc. You'll see the other properties here. Now it's telling me I also need to have something in the body here. So I'm going to click that, hit add module, and I want to get one option, but you could have a couple other options here, maybe for like an article page or something else, anything that sort of has some structure that you want to start as the main HTML within your page. So I'm going to choose this default page, and you'll notice now it's giving me some structure that starts to look familiar from the page editor. So the header slot, this is where I'm going to add my site's header. So I'll hit add fragment, and I'm going to choose the header container that we saw earlier. And like that, I've already got the header in my template, and I'm going to add the footer fragment as well. So for here, I just add footer. So any page created from this template now is already going to get the header and the footer, and nothing else needed. So that's we're already, this is a valid template right now. I could publish this and create new pages from it, and it's going to work just fine. I'll see the header and the footer, and I'll have these slots that I can add stuff to. In fact, let's just go ahead and do that. So I'll go ahead and finish editing this, hit OK. And if we now create a page using this, we're going to just see that header and footer and those empty slots inside of it. So if I do new, and I'll do the demo one, I'll just call this TT demo. We've just created a template that gives us a really basic structure. So there's our header, our footer, and the 3 slots that are defined by that page object in the middle. And right now, because I haven't set any constraints, I can add any module in my system. So if I hit insert module, I get them all, right? Say I want to not show certain ones, or I want to start adding some constraints. Now I can go back to that that template, And let's go ahead and put something in the main slot to start kind of making an opinion about what this template really should be doing. So we'll add a module, and let's say we want to add a container type as an option. We also maybe want to add a content block, and maybe want to add a spacer. Okay. And now I also want to set some defaults. So my content block here, I'm going to call this default, and my heading, I'm going to call heading. That's fine. And my image, I'm going to add some default placeholder image, and maybe I'll choose that the one that I used in the other one. So I'm going to choose that placeholder image as my image. Hit save, finish editing, and I'll go ahead and publish that as well. If I go back here, you'll notice, I had all those options before, but as soon as I refresh this, and now I go to my main slot and click Insert Module. Now I've got those three options that I just chose, and if I chose that content block, I'm getting my defaults that I just set in the template. So that's really how you can quickly create templates and set up some structure and just make it easy for your content authors to edit their content. Now we're running a little short on time. I want to point out just a couple last things before we conclude. Your products here. So in this products page, this gives you all of the products within that you've assorted to your online channel. And if you go to any of these, you get a preview essentially of the default experience for that product page. You'll notice that up here, this default PDP has been assigned as the default experience for that. Anytime I assort a new product that's released in back office to my online channel, it's going to automatically get this default PDP and be for sale. I don't need to do any authoring tasks within Site Builder for that to show up on the channel. That's just a merchandising task to make it available. But say I want to add some marketing content to this, I can hit this customize product page button, which is going to break away from that default experience and let me choose any other template in my system. So if I have a template that I've structured for shoes, say for example, or just for customizing any product page, I can choose that template. And now you'll notice up here that I'm not using the default. It's now made a one-off page for this product record ID. And it's in draft state, and say I want to add something to this, I can add a I can add other content to this page as much as I need to that is different from the default. So say I want to add this enrich container to add some marketing, and I can then add another fragment to that. Maybe I have a pre-built one here for leather storytelling for these leather shoes. I can add that and pretty quickly customize this product page with some other content here. Now and then I also want to point out that drag and drop in either the WYSIWYG here, so I can click that move tool and move things around. I can also do the same thing over here in the outline if I want to be a little more granular. So say I want to move that up right underneath the buy box, I can do that there. And now it's being moved around, and I've basically customized this product page for that. And then when I'm done, I just hit finish editing, just like I would with a normal page, and I can publish it just like a normal page. And that's going to be my thing. And if I need to preview it before I publish, hit the preview button. It's going to give me a full browser window that I can then basically check it. This URL is authenticated, so anyone that in my company that I want to send this to have them check it out, I can copy and paste this URL. It's persistent, and I can send it to them for review. I could also send this to my mobile phone if I wanted to and check it and make sure that everything's responsive for different viewport sizes. And then when I'm happy, I hit publish, and that customized product page or whatever page or fragment that I've been done is now updated. So with that said, I think we've covered a lot of site content management tasks here, the bread and butter that I think are very common within many sites. Thank you all for joining, and these are some additional resources that you guys can link to learn more and kind of understand how this fits into the greater commerce omni-channel ecosystem. And Sam, I'll just check with you first. Were there any questions lingering that I can cover in 30 seconds?
Looks like one just came in, a last one, and it was, can we create product page layout specific to a category?
So I will give you this. You can certainly create a layout, a preset layout for something like for like a shoe category, and then you could customize your pages using that as a quick way to customize all those ones. As far as assigning it to a category, that is something that we are actively designing right now and is in our product roadmap, but is not available yet. So I hope that answers the question. Right now, it is still a good way to fast track being able to customize those pages. You can certainly use a preset layout for shoes, for example, that might already have some fragments and different structure that applies to a shoe. That is definitely doable today. As far as just quickly assigning it to a whole category, that is coming in the future. And we are actively designing that today. Great. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to you, Nina.
All right, thank you, Nick, and thanks everyone for joining. We'd like to get your feedback on today's session, so I've posted a link to a short survey in the Q&A panel. We value your feedback and welcome your input on how we did today and what you would like to see in future sessions. The survey scores are on a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest score possible. Thank you for your participation. As a reminder, the recording of today's session will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within 5 business days. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenter and thank you to our audience for logging in and joining us. Please stay safe and have a great rest of your day or evening wherever you are.